What if you could predict your customer's next move or create a viral marketing campaign at the click of a button? According to a report by IBM, businesses that implement AI-powered chatbots can save up to 30% on customer service costs. And according to research by Statista, the global market for predictive analytics is expected to reach $22.4 billion by 2026, with industries such as finance, healthcare, retail, and manufacturing leading to the adoption of AI-driven predictive analytics solutions. On this show, we explore why understanding and using artificial intelligence tools and resources can give you an unfair advantage. This is PhraSEOlogy plus AI with your hosts Filipe and Miguel Santos. As a digital marketing professional specializing in SEO for over 20 years, I've worked with companies from startups to the global Fortune 500. Learn how to gain an unfair advantage with AI as we uncover tips, tools, and strategies. Welcome, everybody. We've got Conor Martin. He's an SEO, a YouTuber, and he's sharing knowledge about the current shift in AI along with SEO and how to get basically the right mix of skills that you need to excel and to upskill. He spent 8 years teaching English in Brazil, Ireland, and in Spain, and has put most of his time into really pushing his passion and evangelizing artificial intelligence and its best capabilities for full stack marketers. With that, Conor, I don't know if you want to mention anything else.
No, that's a pretty good introduction. I've been basically, I always loved teaching, and then I started finding out about this stuff online. I was like, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. You can work online. So I started a blog and teaching English as part of my blog, and then just learned as things developed. I found out about AI and just thought this was like the best thing ever in a way, because in another way, it was like people were copying my stuff online, but we can get into that in more detail in a minute.
Sounds good. Yeah, I actually came across Conor's YouTube channel. I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's you were actually evaluating a lot of tools, kind of putting out some simple, like quick how-tos on using this stuff as a marketer. And I found that kind of compelling and really like I wanted to get you on and talk to you a little bit about how you're doing this and basically how other folks can learn from your channel and pick up some skills and basically just navigate this change as it occurs. So Conor, I know there's a lot of questions around AI and of course, like how can people get into the speed of things and how can they use it to really, I guess, increase their value? What does it really mean to be a full stack marketer these days, especially with AI?
Yeah, well, I just think, since the start of AI or since ChatGPT came along, I think we need to do more. We need to have more skills. Before it was more specialized, right? Like I was a blogger and I only did blogging, a little bit of YouTube as well in the past. But now I think you need to have video first. I think you need to be able to record videos and other skills like social media and blogging as well. All of those three key areas, I think. You need to have your finger on the pulse in all three of them. And AI is just going to save us a ton of time in each of them. So I can spend the first part of my day recording videos and using AI and editors outsource as much as I can. That part of my marketing strategy, and then also do my SEO at the same time. Again, use AI tools to get my first draft. Then I can prompt my way or edit my way to a really good blog post. And then I have my video that I recorded earlier. And all I need to do is post on social media. So there you go.
Well, you mentioned some interesting things, right? So while AI can help us do all these things and it almost makes us kind of like a one-person army, I have to imagine that a lot of folks are asking themselves, like, how the heck do you start doing that? Because they might be kind of used to traditional marketing where they're kind of putting in a lot of effort and doing these things and the research. And they're basically just like concatenating all these documents and trying to figure out where to make their first steps. How did you kind of transition into figuring out how to use AI to automate or speed up things? Because there are a million different ways to do this.
Well, yeah, that's true. There's a million different ways and a million different tools. That's part of the problem, right? We have to kind of keep up to date, like really, really keep up to date with stuff. But I suppose because I was in the SEO, blogging and literally spending all my day writing all the time, then it came more naturally to me because, if you could speed up that process, then, you can speed up your whole workflow and publish a lot more. So I would start there because the tools in the blogging space, I think, are a bit more developed, like the workflows, let's say, are more developed than, let's say, in YouTube, for example, it's a bit, you still need to do a lot of the work yourself, really.
So that brings me to an interesting point in time, right? So when you started thinking about AI and going from blogging to like using AI to make things a lot more powerful across video and like creating more blogs and figuring out how to make the right kind of blogs with quality content, how did you kind of step into that? Like, what was that aha moment for you? Like when you realized you could use this stuff and really make it happen?
I guess there was like the fear one day when I saw what ChatGPT could do. It was just like, typing in, oh my God, this can do like very similar what I'm doing, I do think what I was doing was useful and still is useful, but you know, ChatGPT was able to do quite a good amount of it. So I just, I was like, okay, well, I need to figure out something else because if this is that good, it's still not amazing. Obviously, it depends on the niche, but the niche that I was doing is quite evergreen, and the topics are, the information is already all around on the internet. So for that reason, I made the switch. I went, oh, okay, I can do more things as well with this. So I got excited by it as well at the same time.
Do you think that folks that have done blogging or writing would naturally kind of fall into the video category? Because I always thought like that always felt like something different. Yes, it's creative, but it felt like a whole different beast. And yeah, so talk to us a little bit about how AI is kind of making that a little simpler, maybe.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you at that point. I think most bloggers don't really like video, but I always liked it as well. Video is more difficult, right? Because you have to just literally talk to the camera. You have to learn these skills. I'm still definitely learning all these skills. Like the amount of skills you need for YouTube is just, it's a lot, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I do the same way as like I just try to practice as much as I can, try and make as many videos as I can, and then hopefully my skills will, eventually improve. But in terms of where we're at now, yeah, like you still need to talk to the camera if you want it to grow like a personal brand or something. What I'm trying to do, yeah, you still need to obviously talk to the camera, but there are tools now for editing that can save you a bunch of time, remove the silences, and just do a lot of the initial editing that you might need to do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was thinking about that for myself as well. Like when I went through building video and kind of thinking about different types of content and how to atomize it, there are all kinds of AI tools. And unfortunately, they're not all put together, right? So you have to kind of find these things.
Mhm.
And I think that's where your channel come into play here. You're evaluating a lot of these tools and kind of like mentioning which ones are useful for what use cases. And that's another aspect that's really important here. Different people are listening to this and maybe have slightly different roles in marketing. Maybe they're entrepreneurs, maybe they're SEOs strictly. But the thing is, each one of those roles has a different use for these tools, and maybe some of them kind of overlap. But the best part is to find those tools that work well today, and then kind of figure out which ones are going to be adapting to the future, which is the more of a, in my mind, is going to be a consolidated set of platforms that do a lot of these things, whether it's around content, and I mean all types of content, image, video, audio, and text. And also those very specialized tools that do things that for some reason just need to be very highly focused on. Maybe so with that, how can marketers adapt their skills to incorporate these AI tools? I think that's kind of a key question that a lot of people have on their mind.
Well, yeah, I think you should be looking at it in two ways, really. Like, first, you need to keep up to date and like try to understand the workflow, right? And what parts of this I can use AI for, and what parts I can automate as well. So there's that part. And then there's also the part where you want to add your own personality, your own creativity. And how can you be the most creative marketer to come up with something, whatever out of the box or something, different that's exciting as well. So you kind of need those two skills, right? That's kind of my idea, really.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, definitely, I think one of the hardest parts right now for most folks are just identifying how they can not just use tools, but understand how these tools work so that they can apply them right into their own skill set so they have value. Because if you rely on
Yeah.
a tool, that tool may be here today, but gone tomorrow. So like, how do you actually
Mhm.
keep up with the tool, the essence of the tool and what it does? And obviously the technology that powers AI and that'll become something else in the near future. So I don't know. What's your opinion on how we can do that effectively?
Well, I think it's, testing and with all technology, right, is, having the patience to kind of go, okay, well, Let me try ChatGPT with this. Okay, it didn't work. Or let me try Google Gemini with this. Let me try Claude. And then C is like, okay, I can do this. Gemini is great at this. Claude's great at this. You just kind of have to test it and test it. I don't know what the tasks that you realize that are the most important that can be, helped with AI, you'll end up going straight away to that tool that helped you that time that you're like, okay, that was good. I'll keep doing that.
Absolutely. I did want to give out like a little bit of a pro tip here that I've determined has been effective so far. There's actually two parts to this. One is kind of map out your use cases, understand what parts should be automated, which parts do you need help with, which ones stick you the most in terms of being kind of stuck and not knowing how to move forward, or you get some mini paralysis. Map those out
Mm,
so you have a good idea of what kind of tools you might be interested in or how you want to approach your process, your workflow. And then the
okay.
second thing I think that's been kind of effective has been learning how to prompt correctly with examples and be very clear so that you don't get crappy output.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like sometimes it's a bit like, oh, prompt engineering sounds like this very difficult topic. And, I think it's just trial and error. Like, I didn't know anything about this prompt engineering. Sounds very fancy, but like you're just really just trying to ask what you want to
I love how you
practice with
mentioned that
it.
because as little as a year and a half ago, there were a ton of articles talking about how prompt engineer is going to be the next big role. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the heck is this? Why is it called engineering? And the reality is, yeah, it's just basically asking really good questions, putting as much context as you can so the machine understands what you want. It's not a one
No,
sentence question. It's like, unfortunately, it does have to be more like a paragraph, but it's good.
yeah, exactly. But then it's also, the more of an expert you are in your field, then the better that is as well. Because, if you're talking about some financial stock charts or something, you'll add that into your prompt. Whereas, I don't know anything about that. So, you know, that's your bonus, right? That you know this stuff.
Exactly. So yeah, being a professional matters because then the machine understands better what you want and what you're looking to get out of it. And you also understand exactly what kind of context you need to add. But that's why I think mapping it out is really good because you may have this stuff in your head, but when it comes
Yeah.
down to writing it into a text box to get some kind of output, it's not as easy unless you have like a framing.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me
That's
ask
cool.
you, Connor, are there any like examples that you have of like maybe AI enhancing traditional marketing roles and maybe some things you've seen? If you have like some examples of AI enhancing traditional marketing, and I think you kind of alluded to like blogging, for example, right? Like the blogging capabilities of AI, but maybe some
But
other examples that folks could grab onto.
yeah, I suppose for me, it's blogging has been the number one thing and that I can do, so much faster. Like obviously, I used to write like 3 blog articles per day before AI, and now I can publish like 5 to 7 2,000 word blog articles. So that's something that I think business owners should be aware of. That you can get a lot more value now from SEO if you want to use AI to help you. Get that publish a lot more content faster, and that's something that I'm doing and I'm doing for clients too. So that's, I think, the biggest change. But then, in video creation, I don't think we're really there yet. Some tools are pretty good, but I'm not too sure. And then repurposing obviously is something that we need to look into, repurposing content to other platforms. You make a short one so you can publish it several times. So I think that's a really good way to use AI too.
I mean, who's not excited about like getting video AI stuff into the right light, right? But it's just, yeah, I've seen some examples recently where you can turn photographs into videos, and it's kind of eerie how kind of good it is, but also how strange because you'll notice some artifacting where like the hair moves on its own in a different direction, or the like an arm just appears or a hand just
Right.
appears and melds into the other one. It's like very strange stuff, but it's still kind of cool. The fact that it can even get close to mimicking some kind of movement that's realistic and that keeps in line with the photographs, which is crazy, right?
Yeah, exactly. But if you think about how the images started, right, with the 7 fingers and stuff like that, and now they're just improving year on year, and you get like now you can get good AI images, I suppose. So video is going to go that way as well.
I just can't wait till they get text right in some of these image creators because, like, I noticed the image text is terrible.
They're getting closer. They're getting closer. I use ChatGPT for images. Like it's got DALL-E 3 on the Pro version, and then you can just highlight it and then say the spelling is incorrect. And then usually the second try, it will get it right.
That's a good
Yeah.
tip because, yeah, I think until recently they didn't have that, right? It was just it was still like I would rather generate an image without text and do that editing later. But we might be at a different stage now. Let me ask you, Connor, for 2024 into 2025, what do you think are some must learn technologies or, let's say, course material in AI right now for marketers?
Well, it depends on your niche of marketing or what you want to do, the most. I think every single section of marketing is being changed, right? So in blogging, you can use AI for almost every part of the workflow, right? You can use it for keyword research, creating content clusters and silos, all of this type of thing, which is what we need to do now in SEO. You could do it for the content creation, right? Writing the blog. You can also analyze the text for SEO optimization, all of that type of thing. Also, I think, the way Google is now, YouTube videos, and they're doing really well in Google search as well. So that's why it's also important that you're creating videos on the same topic, and then you've got double the chance of ranking at the top of Google. So, yeah, they're the most important things that you need to focus on, I think.
And I know that with video editing, I guess I was used to using something like Premiere, Adobe Premiere to edit out videos, but there are much simpler tools that pretty much anyone can get the gist of, like CapCut and
Yeah.
Capwing and, DaVinci Resolve. There's a bunch of other ones, but they all have like AI now, and a lot of the tools are simpler, right, to use.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. I use Filmora a lot. That has loads of AI tools added into it as well. Even the AI translation worked really well, which I was quite shocked by. It's like it sounded like me and I was speaking Spanish. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
It is amazing. We're definitely going to be seeing a lot of these technologies. I think as they get better, though, it'd be it's interesting to see if they have to have a disclaimer or some kind of indicator that it's AI content, because it will be indistinguishable, I think, from reality in some cases.
Well, yeah, I think we're definitely at that point already with text because so much stuff with AI content is ranking on Google and people don't know. And even if you go to Facebook, there's loads of AI images there and people are like, wow, that's amazing. No idea that, that it was AI generated.
Well, I mean, this is going to lead to probably a whole different episode specifically on this, but I was thinking about the ethics and a lot of the ways that we treat AI, and because right now it's a free for all. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West, in my opinion. But at
Yeah,
some
yeah.
point, we're going to have to put a couple of guide rails on there, because otherwise we're going to be seeing some things that are probably going to twist and turn cultures and societies. And yeah, that's a much bigger topic. So maybe I'll
Yeah,
leave it
yeah,
there,
right.
but it would be
Yeah,
interesting to delve into that, especially since that's an AI
yeah,
favorite
we're,
term. So, Connor, with regards to this change, what AI tools have really become part of your toolbox, and maybe it should be in the toolbox for most marketers?
well, yeah, I think the tools that I actually use the most are the most famous ones, the ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, these three, because of their versatility, right? And how many different types of things. I think somebody asked me this is like, what do I use them for? And it's like a little bit of everything, a little bit of not everything. Is like I just when things need information needs organized, or for all those little things. I always go to ChatGPT and just, or maybe it's like, write me a paragraph about this, and I need to add that in, or organize, or give me a bulleted list of sources, something like that. All these little tasks, I still find ChatGPT to be the best.
Yeah, I really like the custom GPTs because you can also create your own. And if you're working on a very specific project, with the combination of a custom GPT that's built around content or information you want, and the ability to question it and kind of pull out specific things that are in that profession or in that area, that industry, I think is
Mhm.
key. Because like ChatGPT, Claude, a lot of those, Perplexity, they're all kind of in a place where they're made to be general, and that's fine. But when you have like a custom version of it, it just lets you hone in if you're working on something very specific, which I find very, like, quite valuable.
Yeah, yeah, true. Very true.
Let me ask you then, because we are SEOs, how do you think AI is really helping SEO strategies go forward? Because I know that there's a lot of ways that people are saying that they're using AI for SEO, but it's not necessarily the best way. So I would love to know from you, like, what you think is effective here.
Yeah, well, like everyone says, for me, AI is a tool, right? So I just use it for like first drafts of most things that I do. If I want to understand, a topic and try to find keywords around a topic, then I use that. But, with keyword research is, yeah, I actually think it's more of art intuition than, looking at keyword data and going, oh, this is 100 search volume. I don't really use that. I just, I'm just looking at the search and results page all the time. And, it's a feeling. It's like, I know that that keyword is going to get lots of traffic. It's like, I don't need to look at the data, So it's like, it's helping me with brainstorming, getting ideas and finding stuff that's content that's related. And then, yeah, I just use a tool like either Journalist AI or Koala Writer, one of these tools that basically you just enter your keyword and then there's all different little spaces where you can edit the blog post depending on your needs, if you want extra featured introductions or videos or images included, and then that can be automatically published to your website. So that's mainly how I'm using AI for.
It's a good point. The funny thing is, as things have been shifting from traditional old school SEO, let's call it that, there's more of a focus or a need on the customer journey. So you really have to better understand your business and your industry, I think,
Yeah,
rather than just
definitely.
keywords alone. And then I think there's also the intent. So, like, what is this intent meant for? How is the content addressing that? I think that's the key part. But yeah, I totally feel you on that. The tools aren't kind of doing it for us. We have to still rely a lot of our intuition and our background knowledge in a specific subject area.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about the intent, really. It's like a few years ago, you could just pick a long tail keyword, right? And go, I'll just do an article on that and it'll rank in Google, no problem. But now it's, yeah, you just kind of have to, well, you have to think, like you said, think about your audience, think about your customer and go, okay, what is it that they would be searching, Get in their shoes,
Yeah.
the way marketing should be, I suppose.
It was always meant to be this way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, look, I know there's a lot of right ways, a lot of wrong ways, and a lot of like in between ways, but can marketers do to avoid pitfalls with AI? Like, in your opinion, what have been some of the things you've learned that maybe others should skip over? And like, if you were to do it all over again, you might say, don't do this, or like focus more on this when it comes to AI.
Yeah, well, I guess it's just relying on it too much, I suppose. Even though I use it a lot, it's like at the same time, if you rely too much on it, your content is just going to be generic and the same as other people's, and it's not going to be that good if you don't add your own little bit of spice to it, your own personality. And
Mm.
sometimes people, are using this more general purpose tools like ChatGPT for blogging, whereas maybe that might not be the best tool for blogging, and then you're not really going to beat someone who's using a better tool, right? That's, more updated. It's better prompted, specifically prompted for the workflow, right? I think that's really it. And what you were saying before about, really understand your workflow. What is it like step by step that you need to do to produce a great video, to produce a really good blog post or social media piece of content? So that would be my answer.
Well, that's a good point to kind of ask you another question. So, your YouTube channel, how do you like, in your own way, like, how do you actually go and find topics that you think would be interesting for the listening public? Like, what's your favorite way to slice and dice things and then create videos for it? Because that comes into the whole AI play, I think, and how you look at things.
It's one of those things that ideas are, where did they come from? Really,
Yeah.
there's a lot of input. So I just keep up to date. I have to watch lots of videos as well myself and then go, oh, I could do that. And I could do like the more I watch and then the more ideas I get, right?
Mhm.
And I'm also trying to solve my own problems, right? One of the videos I made last week was how to write a YouTube description with AI. So, because I hate writing the YouTube description. Yeah. I'm just lazy. I don't want to write after all the other stuff I've done for the videos. So, I was like, okay, I'll figure this out and then make a video about it. And yeah, also the trending topics was doing well for other people. I look at that sometimes too.
Yeah, I find that a lot of the YouTube specific stuff is kind of its own a little space of knowledge. You just have to pick and play and experiment a lot, and then eventually you kind of understand intuitively how to approach it. But I mean, I guess it's everybody's own kind of journey. I think with AI tools, you can definitely speed along some of the tedious stuff, right? Like the tags and the
Yeah.
descriptions and the titling to some degree. Yeah. Well, Conor, AI is really changing everything, long form content specifically. And I think that's an area where everybody can do better because, as you mentioned, the content comes from somewhere, right? This is all AI is trained on lots of content that already exists. So, how do you think it's going to change that going forward? And how can we keep content quality pretty high, like in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think there will be some lower quality, in the short term, but I think eventually we're going to get to a point where we really know how to use it properly. And I think the levels have just increased, to be honest, is like, and it's just in all marketing, it's just getting more and more competitive. And, there's more and more people doing it. People are interested in using AI to get to the next level. So you really need to know your stuff now, I think. And that's the best way to do that, from in my opinion, is just keep practicing. That's what I think. There was some study, wasn't there, of the clay pots or something, right? Where the more they practice, the better they get, rather than just spending all day trying to perfect one. So the more you practice, the better you get at all these topics. Yeah, I think in the long run, it's fine. It's going to only just help us, because I think everyone's going to get into YouTube more and more. Like I think you see that with business leaders, and maybe it's the Alex Hormozy effect, but it's like everyone's listening to Alex Hormozy, and he says you have to be on YouTube. So all the founders are getting on YouTube and starting their personal brands. And I think that's going to trickle down to every single worker, to be honest.
When it comes to your own process, because again, you mentioned that we kind of talked about your past. Like you were teaching English, you like discovered your love for video and for like AI and for blogging, right? This is something that you've been doing for a while here. How do you think that came to like? Talk to us a little bit about how that came to be. Like you were talking about independently. We were talking about this a little bit about you being a little bit of a digital nomad. So explain that, because a lot of folks may not know exactly what a digital nomad is, or necessarily like how you got started and how that became part of your life.
Well, sure. Yeah. Well, I was an English teacher, like in classrooms, for 8 or 9 years. And then I kind of transitioned into being an online teacher, because I always wanted to travel and live in different countries and travel. So this was a great way. And then, yeah, as most teachers are, they like making videos and explaining things. That's kind of part of teaching, right? So, I started making videos about teaching English. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And just been moving around nonstop for 7 years or so now.
Yeah, I mean, you've been to some very interesting places, clearly, like when I mentioned where you've been teaching English, but then are there any other countries that you would like to note or mention that were very interesting to you and you traveled through?
Yeah, I've been to lots of countries. I was in Georgia and Vietnam, in Thailand, in Bulgaria currently. There's a cool digital nomad scene here that not many people know about. So, there's amazing offices that I'm in now. And there was just a digital nomad festival. So, people from all around the world who work online, a lot of people in marketing, a lot of people in software as well. And so it's really cool to, network if anyone's interested in something like that and they want a good place to start off. It's a small town called Bansko in Bulgaria, and there's just tons of people here. Like I was just talking to a guy there who wants to, he has a software tool and is like, oh, it's easy to find people who are who have similar interests from all around the world.
I think that's really cool. And I think that's a great call, because most folks like to do a little bit of traveling at least. And I think that maybe those kind of communities where you can get together with other folks that are trying to learn and experience and immerse themselves while doing what they love makes a lot of sense. And I would love to ask you just a follow on there, which is your YouTube. Has that been helped a lot by being a digital nomad and being exposed to all these different folks? I mean, I would love to know a little bit about that out of personal curiosity. Do you think that being a digital nomad and meeting all these folks in the community has helped
Mhm.
your YouTube capabilities and your learning?
Yeah, definitely. Along the way, I had, online coaches and people who've helped me for sure. And just people who are into the same stuff, as like we talk about the same stuff all the time, creating content online, and, people who understand that, what you're doing, because maybe for some people they've never heard of digital nomads, and you have to explain all the time what you're trying to do. And here when you meet a lot of like-minded people, it's, you don't, you just feel like it's normal.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome. And I figure like because you're getting exposed to all those tools, you're also like maybe getting ideas for different things that if you had stayed home or stayed in one place, you might not have exposed yourself to, right?
For sure. I
Yeah,
mean, there's loads of people in this office who have AI tools as well. So, we can chat
that's
about that
pretty cool.
stuff. And yeah,
So I know obviously we've been talking a lot about content creation, video specifically, because I think video is a place where it used to take a ton of time. It still takes a little bit of time, but it's been like sped up quite a bit by AI. What advantages and which tools do you think are most impactful for video creation right now?
I suppose, yeah, for me anyway, it's editing is really, really just a massive time saver for when I do. So I use a tool called Tela.tv for screen recording. So it's super easy to use and you can edit there. But then I also use Veed.io. And they have tons and tons of all. The way you're saying, sometimes you have to use different tools for different things that you want to do. I think Veed is one of the ones that has a lot of the AI tools that you might want to use, or features, sorry, I should say. And then I use Wondershare Filmora as well. And then there's another one for shorts. If you are trying creating shorts, there's one called Submagic, and that can add captions and you can add little B-rolls. You can just highlight the word and then it, adds a B-roll. So super cool tools. It's just really trying them out and see which ones work and which ones will help you, which ones won't.
Yeah, I really feel like, this is the new Photoshop because I remember when Photoshop was early off and people were just going crazy editing and trying to figure out how to make images look different or like have fun with images. This is now like
Mhm.
the video frontier, which has always been thought of as more complicated, but now these tools make it kind of simple and really
Yeah.
kind of fun when you have an idea or a composition in mind, right?
For sure, yeah. I think that's why videos just, we've been talking about it for years probably, but like it really is coming more and more and people are posting more and more to YouTube and it's just getting easier, I think.
Yeah. I mean, this brings us to another kind of a segue into an interesting topic and maybe a little scary topic for some, right? Which is, can this AI, this stuff that's being developed now, can it really replicate human creativity? And is it going to kind of like mess around with our content in a way that we can't? I would love to kind of get your take on what you've read and seen about how it can be close or if there are any limitations, because I think people fear this right now.
This is, yeah, it's a very difficult question to
It
answer that.
is.
It's because we can't really see it's growing so exponentially. It's obviously is scary for a lot of people. And I tend not to worry about that because we're in the present moment and we can only deal with the present moment and the tools that we have now. Some content being replaced, even, important stuff like education, it could help, create lots of educational information, like even putting stuff into video content that's not in video content because some children prefer to watch videos than, listen to somebody talking. That could be a way that AI is really great. But, it's like the teacher. Is the teacher going to be replaced? I don't think so, because you always need someone there to empathize and really understand why a person's having a problem. And, an AI tool can't never really understand that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would throw in my perspective on this, which is until we get to the point of having AI be sentient,
Hmm.
it's all going to be trained on stuff that we do. And similar to art in the past, like where artists, the more educated artists are, the less original ideas they think they're having. It might be the same kind of thing where AI is like trained on this material that already exists. So it doesn't really generate anything super interesting or unique, but it does a good job of replicating or making something that's very close.
Hmm.
Whereas humans still can be creative. We still have dreams. We still think about things in different ways. We get exposed to different stimuli. But that doesn't mean that all these amazing creations, all this technology and the algorithms behind AI aren't going to get to a point where they're pretty impressive. But I feel like
Yeah.
human creativity is what's fueling this. Yeah.
That's true as well. Yeah, exactly. That's one perspective of it. But there'll also be different people. Like some people might love AI music and think AI music is the best, and other
Mhm.
people will just be like, "No, I crave that human passion in a song." It's that's more important to them. And it depends on the specific case. Maybe I wouldn't mind listening to AI music when I work because I just need something in the background. But if I go to a live show, am I going to want an AI music? No, it's going to be boring. So it depends on a lot of factors, I think.
There was, I believe, and this is weirdly coming back from like the early 90s, but there was an anime called Macross Plus, and they had an AI singer. This singer was like generated just to create music and to do concerts. And I feel like it's eerily coming to life little by little, and that's going to be the next thing because we already have AI influencers. We have a bunch of other things that are being played around with AI girlfriends and boyfriends and all this stuff, right?
Great.
So
Yeah.
it was, if you ever have a chance to watch that or find it, because I think it's pretty hard to find now, but the original Macross Plus, it was just amazing to see how they were kind of thinking about that already and how now we're starting to get the components of that. Yeah, maybe
Oh,
it won't
cool.
replace a real artist, but then again, if you listen to a lot of the music, they're basically just sampling, and it's not fully original. They're basically using patterns. So why
Yeah.
not AI
Mm.
music?
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
think there's definitely going to be a time and place for AI music, and it depends. I'm from Ireland, so in Ireland we have a lot of tradition about traditional music still. So that's not going to be replaced. There's no way.
Agreed. And obviously there people can replicate it. They can come up with like different versions, make it funny, right? Based off of different types of lyrics. But I think
Yeah.
like stuff like that is just very inherently based on the culture, and
Yeah.
humans will do a better job always.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
Well, I wanted to ask you one other thing, which is kind of a fun way to end some of these conversations, which is more of like a prediction, right? So I would love to kind of get your sense of a prediction in terms of AI evolving content creation and the creative process over like let's say the next, I don't want to say 5 years because I feel like that's too far out. Maybe the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing that's going to happen is basically that everybody is going to be on YouTube. And I think YouTube is your CV, or it could be LinkedIn as well. I think they're doing something with videos as well. But it's basically, you're not going to be an expert in anything unless you can show it, on YouTube, because somebody who's on YouTube, and maybe it's just because I really like YouTube, but I love watching people who are like, wow, that person's really cool. They're making this content. I love following it. And I've learned a lot. And then you just, that's gives them such a, unique status in the world. And I think that's just going to happen to so many jobs where you have to show what you're doing. And obviously there's going to be some privacy issues in the more corporate world, but apart from that, I think that's the way it's going to go.
I love that perspective. I think also kind of like taking that a step further, it I don't think it's meant to cause fear and angst within people. I think like being able to produce video easily and kind of think about yourself as basically it's an extension of yourself in the real world will kind of pair up with wearables and all these other things in the future because we're already developing piece by piece. They're all separate. They're kind of all in their little silos, but at some point they will be integrated. So video
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense, right? We're not just into reading. Sometimes we want to read. Sometimes we do better with auditory content. Like that's where the
Yeah.
podcasts come in. And sometimes
Hmm.
video is just simpler because it's visual, right? We're visual creatures. And
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like we shouldn't fear it, but we should definitely be on top of it because if you're not on top of it, then you get left behind. And that's the hardest part about a lot of folks that haven't had to, let's say, make so much change in so little time.
Yeah, for sure. No, it has been crazy couple of years, the amount of change that's happened. But I think the thing about people don't want to start YouTube is because they're like, oh, we have to get so many thousand views, or, you're going to be a failure, Whereas it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you get 2 views. I think that's the thing is like if two people, if it's your boss who sees you, then that's, your boss goes, well, Felipe did a great job with that video. And now I know that Felipe is capable of doing this, and there's 10, if 10 people see it, well, then there's 10 people who've seen it, and that's a lot more than would have seen what you have to offer, if you were just working alone.
That's an amazing point, Connor. You definitely bring in and conjure up in my mind the fact that like think about traditionally just doing a like a speaking event, right? Going to an event at your company or whatever. You might be
Yeah.
talking to half a dozen people, maybe up to 100 people. But just think of like getting that many views, like getting that much pressure, and then being able to do it on video. Not as much pressure. Obviously,
Mhm.
you get used to it, you get better at it, and then
Yeah.
over time, all these people are paying attention to you, which is kind of fascinating. And if you can impart some real valuable knowledge, they will get that value and they will support you. So I love that.
Exactly. And I think, it kind of democratizes things as well, because, there could be, let's say we're into AI marketing. So everyone who's interested in AI marketing will be watching this, and someone who's into something a bit different can be watching that. And we're all watching like our own things, but we have our own, interests that we love to watch. And then we start to, connect with people and I go, "Oh, I want to work with that person."
Well, look, our conversation is kind of really meant to pull people together to reflect on this transformative time and to really get folks to experiment and to learn, right? And to pick up new skills. I think
Yeah.
obviously following Conor makes that happen because he covers a lot of things. He puts out a lot of videos, and I'm not kidding. He's definitely putting out a lot of material that I think is very valuable. And I think that over time, as basically these tools become platforms, at least you'll have an understanding of how they work. And then when you get into platforms, they'll be much more familiar. So I think getting away from fear and just embracing and trying things out and having fun with it will be the difference maker and will keep you valuable as a marketer, an SEO, an entrepreneur, basically any role that you can think of, a
Yeah.
salesperson. It's all about just picking up these little skills that make you basically a one-person army. I think getting away from the simple, tedious tasks and realizing that a role is not about tasks, it's about the outcome. So, yeah. Well, Conor, I want to pass it over to you. I want you to tell folks how to follow you because I think they will continue to get a ton of value out of the material you're putting out there. Obviously, I do. So why don't you mention a little bit more about that?
Thank you for having me here. Yeah, I do produce a lot of videos. I try to publish it every day, and it's basically about AI marketing, but it's more, how the latest tools about videos, about blogging, and how to get as how traffic to whatever it is that you're offering as possible. Because yeah, if you get more eyeballs on your stuff, then the better it is for you, right? If you can make some extra sales, and it depends on what type of marketing you're doing, but that's the goal.
Definitely. And you can follow Conor on youtube.com. I think at Conor Martin AI, if I'm not mistaken.
That's it. Yeah. At ConorMartin.ai, or at Conor Martin AI. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. And then also LinkedIn. I know that your LinkedIn, you post quite a few articles, but it's mostly, I think, more of your YouTube, but your LinkedIn is pretty helpful too.
Thank you. Yeah, it's mostly on YouTube at the moment. Yeah, for sure.
I'll definitely link it also in the video's description so that folks can also follow it and maybe it's easier just to see. But thank you so much, Conor. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Filipe. Thank you for having me.